Hello and welcome to this episode of the Game Plan Podcast by College Baseball Advisors. I'm your host, Wayne Mazzoni. My background is 30 years as a college baseball coach, 1992 to 2022. For the last 4 years, I've been running College Baseball Advisors, where I help high school athletes and parents navigate the ever-confusing, changing recruiting process. For more information about what I do, please visit collegebaseballadvisor.com. I'd like to announce that our sponsor, the Mohegan Sun Baseball Coaches Clinic, is the primary sponsor of our podcast and a tremendous, awesome event that takes place every year in January at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Uncasville, Connecticut. This year it's January 15th to 17th. And there's just over the years a tremendous group of people that attend, great speakers from high school coaches, college coaches, professional coaches, minor league coaches, players. It's a great event, live demos, classroom kind of instruction, Q&A, vendor area. It's just a great event. So for more information about that, please visit baseballcoachesclinic.com. And on today's episode, we have Jayson King, who's the head baseball coach at University of Dayton. Jayson and I have known each other for a very long time, back when he was coaching at Franklin Pierce and I was coaching at what was Takeo Post University, now called Post University. Jayson's had a lot of success as the head coach at Franklin Pierce, where he basically turned that program into a D2 powerhouse. He then went on to coach as an assistant at Army before getting his Division I head coaching job at Dayton, where he was 7 years before he went to Vanderbilt as an assistant coach for one season. And then when Scott Loazzo left to join the staff at Duke from the University of Dayton, Jayson went back to Dayton to rejoin the program and kind of pick up just where he left off. So Jayson's a good Massachusetts guy. We seem to have a lot of Mass New England guys on these podcasts. For whatever reason, a lot of good baseball guys come out of there. So I think you'll really enjoy this podcast with Jayson King. All right, so Jayson, I'm pumped. First of all, I'm happy to reconnect with you. Like, we've texted a bunch and we've known each other for a very long time, but I'm happy to sit down and get this time. Not to mention, before I hit record, you told me you're already going with fall ball, so I know this gets to be a busy time. So I highly appreciate you taking the time. So
of course,
I did also confirm that you're born and raised Massachusetts, which wasn't a shock with the accent. I've gotten a lot of, I would say, you're like my 45th guest that I've done this. There's got to be 60-70% that are born and raised in New England with the New England accent. So you fit right in. But obviously I know baseball, of course, must have been a big part of your youth sports experience growing up. But were you a baseball only guy, or were you playing a bunch of sports as a kid?
No, I was just played everything growing up, and then by the time I got to high school, kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do. But I played three sports. I played 1 year of football, then 3 years of golf, but 4 years of baseball, and 2 years of basketball. So I pretty much played whatever I could each season, but definitely stayed busy. But baseball was always the one sport that meant a little more to me, for sure, when I was growing up.
You didn't strike me as a golfer. Are you any good still?
I actually played yesterday. I play like once a year, but I can hold my own. I used to play a lot, so I think that's a cool skill to have, just because you can get out there and not look like a fool. If you were good at one point, which I was solid, so I can get out there and hold my own now.
Yeah, and eventually, at some point, you'll be retired, and you're not going to play hoops or baseball, but you'll probably go out and hit the golf ball when you're retired.
No doubt.
So I also know, basically, at least at some point, you were, through college, a primary catcher. But growing up, were you only behind the plate, or did you play a bunch of spots?
I actually was an infielder. I played.
Interesting.
Yeah, I played a lot of second base, a lot of third base, especially in high school. And then when I got to college, I played 1 year at third and 3 years at second.
Oh, so the catching thing. So I'm not trusting Wikipedia on anything. So I screwed that up.
The catching thing just came from, this. When you're a Division II coach, you kind of have to be able to coach everything.
Yeah.
And I just knew how important the catching position was, and I really focused on trying to be good at that. And we had a bunch of good catchers, and then when I got a chance to work with USA Baseball, they needed someone to do the catching, and it just kind of was the thing that just took off because there weren't a lot of catching guys. Now that I think there's more now, but back then there weren't a lot. So if you could do that, I think it opened up some spots for you to be able to get involved in some of that stuff. So
Yeah,
that's kind of where that came from.
got it.
But I think there's a lot of overlap with the infield stuff, but obviously it's a way different position.
You know, it's funny. I coached probably 26 seasons in college, and one year had a major catching problem. One guy was ineligible, one guy got hurt. And boy, when you don't have a quality catcher, you really can't play the game of baseball. Like, we know pitching's everything, but if a catcher's good, you don't notice him. When the catching's bad, you notice it like crazy, right?
Yeah, I think pitching and catching, if you don't have those things, sometimes you can't play a baseball game, and you just don't want that to happen. You want to at least give yourself a chance to play a good game of baseball, and if you have those things, I think usually you can.
So, you know, you're similar age to me, where when we were in high school, recruiting was basically non-existent for the most part compared to what it is now. How did you get to Framingham? How did the whole recruiting process happen?
So actually, there wasn't a lot of recruiting. I mean, if you got recruited at all by any level, it was a big deal.
Yes.
So we actually had some really good players that went to Framingham from Canton High School. They ended up transferring in there, and they were older than I was, and they basically, I knew of them, they knew of me, and then just one thing kind of led to another, and I just ended up there, and it was great. It was a great experience for me there. You just never know how it's going to work, especially back then. But I had three different coaches, and they were all good coaches and taught me a lot of different things, and I got to play a lot, which was nice. I met my wife there as well. So there was a lot that was really, really good about it. Didn't have a lot of facilities, but I had all the stuff that was all the like nuts and bolts of what you would want in college, and we had competitive teams, so it was a lot of fun.
Are any of those different coaches you mentioned, are any of them still actively coaching?
Um, yes, Bob Reichman was one of my coaches. I think that was my sophomore year. Um, he coached at Rollins. He coached at a bunch of places after he left Framingham, but he's done coaching now. Mike Sarno is not coaching anymore, as far as I know. And then Sean O'Connor is he coaches at IMG,
Oh,
so he's still involved in baseball. But they were all taught me a lot of stuff, as it pertains to life and baseball while I was there. So it was cool.
so I want to make sure I don't screw this part up since I got the catching piece wrong. But I know, correct me if I'm wrong, you started your first coaching job, was it at Springfield?
Yep,
Was
I was a
that
GA at Springfield.
was that
Yep.
right after Framingham, or did you go do try a regular job first?
Yeah, one year I did a regular job. I worked at Mount Ida College, and the athletic director there, Jackie Palmer, she was a Springfield grad, and she was just like, you need to just go there, get a GA, go there, and I think it'll lead you to where you want to get to. And sure enough, it was great advice.
So at Mount Ida, it was not a coaching thing, correct?
No, it started off intramurals and then kind of went to administration. But when I left Mount Ida to go to Springfield, once I got done with my master's there, so I was there for 2 years, and then she brought me back actually, and I got the UMass Boston head coaching job, and it was very part time.
Right.
So she allowed me to stay on administratively there. So I was working at two different colleges to kind of make it work, but it ended up being pretty good.
How far is Springfield from UMass Boston?
So I was at Mount Ida. I was working at Mount Ida and UMass Boston at the same time.
Oh, and you okay,
So
got it.
yeah, so Newton, Mass to Boston, Mass depends on traffic, obviously
Right.
in Boston. But it wasn't a bad ride. This is like 30 minutes, give or take. It actually worked out pretty well.
And how old were you when you got that UMass Boston job?
25.
How Were you prepared for that gig, or was it a lot of learning as you went?
I think I was prepared as it relates to like um, I always felt like the game was that important to me, so I took it really seriously. So I think because of that, I think I was prepared as it relates to my age. Um, I think I was functioning like as it relates to baseball older than my age, just because I cared a lot about it.
Yep.
But man, did I have lot to learn, and did I make tons of mistakes. But I got a chance to make those mistakes and learn from them and grow from them. And I think when you're that young, I think just being in front of people that are directly relate to the decisions that you make, and when you make it important, I think you can grow up really fast. So I think it just allowed me to grow up fast in the game because I was the guy making the decisions. I wasn't the one that was second or third in charge. I was actually the guy in charge. So even though I was 25, I knew I had to grow up quickly. But it was a really good start for me.
And I don't know a ton about UMass Boston. I know the coach now. I know the facility. It's got a pretty nice darn facility now. I'm assuming that there or not there when you were coaching.
It's same place, but just a bad grass field basically.
Right.
That we shared with BC High. So the facilities were really bad. But like to get a chance when you're 25 to be a head coach in the Little East, which was arguably the best Division III conference in the country at that time, with Southern Maine and Eastern Connecticut. I think it was just it let you know where you stood real quick, and then being able to see some of those really good coaches like Holowati at Eastern Connecticut. And guys like that. I think it was good for me to see all that and feel what that felt like.
You were there ultimately how long at UMass Boston?
I was there for 2 years.
2 years. And then you went to Franklin Pierce after that?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Okay. How did that come about? Was that for you, went from this part-time gig and it was just a better coaching job? Is that ultimately what it was that got you there?
So I think you know what this looked like when we first started getting going. It was just it was tough sledding as far as making a living. It's way harder than it is now. It's still hard,
right,
but much more difficult. I mean, way less full-time job. So I was actually, I got the UMass Boston job, but I also got while I was at UMass, I got the manager's job at Bourne on the Cape. So
I thought that was a little later, but I was going to ask you about Bourne. Yeah.
So while I was there, I was the manager down the Cape. So I was in my second year at UMass Boston, but I was a manager on the Cape. I still remember being in the house that they got for us and where we were living, and I was thinking I was something because I was young down there and I was working with the best players, and this the Franklin Pierce job had come up, but it was attached with volleyball, women's volleyball. But it was full time, and at the time I was like, yeah, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. But on that day when I was supposed to go interview, I called my wife and I said, hey, listen, I'm not doing this. I don't want to coach volleyball. And she's like, no, hell no, you're going to make that ride, and we're going to see where it all leads. And that was probably the best decision that I ever made.
All right, so let's start with this. Not even an assistant at Bourne. You were the manager at Bourne? Yep. I mean, that's ridiculous that you were that young as a manager in the Cape Cod League.
It was cool.
That must have been really
especially
cool.
For a guy like, I grew up 20 minutes outside of Boston, so I'm coaching at UMass Boston. I grew up, we grew up going to the Cape in Falmouth, Mass. And I grew up in Canton, so it was only 50 minutes to the Bourne Bridge. So to be able to do those things like right where you grew up, and knowing what that truly meant, it was. And I think at the time I didn't understand that, but I look back and I'm like, man, I was young. I was really young, and I had things come my way that usually don't come someone that age's way. But for me, I was just lucky that it all worked out like that.
And I know obviously now you're living in the Midwest, but a variety of times we've texted over the past couple years. I'm in the Cape because my in-laws live there. I'm at a game, or you've been in the Cape is still a big place for you, correct?
Yeah, it is. So like last year, being at Vanderbilt, and my wife got a job where she's a teacher by trade. So in the past, she's had her summers off. And then last summer, we just didn't, neither one of us were going to be able to do that if we were in the same positions. So my mom has a house in Falmouth, and usually right when my season ends, I just go down there because it's the best place to recruit from. You got all the summer leagues that are there. You got a lot of my connections are there. So
Right.
um, it pretty much, as soon as the season ends, we just try to get right there. Usually we stay there for the month of June, but yeah, I grew up going there, and I think everyone has this one place where
Yep.
you really fit. It makes you feel different when you go there and a little more relaxed. And the Cape's always been that place for me.
Yeah, the Cape, even though it can get a little nuts with, like, I was there for July 4th this year, and I'm like, this place is insane. It's still, you definitely can unwind, and it's just you don't have to get dressed up for anything, and of course, the baseball games are fun, but all the seafood and the beaches, and you can have an adult beverage now and then, which is
No
always
doubt.
nice.
Yeah, it's
Um,
awesome.
so I did actually remember this from back when, but I had forgotten it until you just mentioned it. How long did you coach volleyball at Franklin Pierce?
So I coached there, I think for my first 4 years, and then like we were horrendous, and I got to the point where it was as far as a baseball coach could bring a volleyball team, and then we ended up hiring another like local person to come in and do that. So I was good there, and I coached cross country for a couple years, and then in an emergency, I went back to coaching for another 2 years. And then I was done after that, and then started doing a lot of administrative stuff along with the baseball while I was there.
I know I would be to this day highly unqualified to coach volleyball. Was it fun? Was it better than you thought it was going to be coaching that, or was it still like, hey, I'm a baseball guy and I'll just do this because I have to? Or did you get into it?
No, I always look at it as like if you're gonna do something, you got to do it best you can. And like even though I know that I wasn't truly like built to do that and made to do that, but I think coaching is. I mean, if you're a competitive, you're competitive. So
Yeah.
it's just. I mean, I made them a lot better than they were when I first got there. But I think I certainly had a ceiling as it relates to what I could accomplish there. So I think no, I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed like just being around people of that age and trying to have fun and compete and win. Like it's fun, but it's not like baseball. I mean, baseball is a passion and something that I love to do. So it was a little bit different, but it was still cool.
So back to the baseball at Franklin Pierce. I mean, you turned that place into an absolute juggernaut. There was a stretch of years you guys had. It's just ridiculous. Like, how did you do it? Was it great recruiting by you and the staff? Was it the way you ran? How did you get that place to be so absolutely elite?
Um, obviously, there's just so much that goes into building a program. I think I was fortunate in a lot of ways that one, I worked for an incredible boss, Bruce Kirsch, who he wanted to win too. He also gave me the freedom to do the things that I needed to do to help us win. I think secondly, and probably most importantly, it was at a time where I think you could completely outwork people. So there weren't a lot of assistants that were full time. There wasn't social media. So it was just a different day and age. So like certainly did my fair share of hustling to try to get good players. But the times allowed me to get some players probably that I had no right getting. That there's just no way you could do that right now because everyone knows where the good players are. And you don't even have to go out to see them sometimes to really understand what a guy is truly like. So I think just the times where I was in, and then I just made up my mind. I was just like, I'm just gonna make this place good. I don't know what it's gonna take, but I'm gonna find a way to do it. And I think like it goes back to two things. One is recruiting, and two is player development. Like I think we did those things at a high level there. You've been there, you know what it looks like. It's in the woods. There's not a ton else to do, and it got to the point where good baseball players wanted to go there. I think building it early, we had to beg people to go there and just sell them on vision, really. And then after that, once we got it rolling, it was like, the really good players that had a passion for the game and wanted to play at the next level and wanted to win. I think we had a good shot at getting them. So it was a process, but I think I was fortunate to have like a great boss and to be in a time where you could actually really hustle people. So I think we took full advantage of those things.
I'm trying to think back to the roster when you really got the thing going. Was it straight high school kids? Were you getting transfers too, or a combo? I forget.
Yeah.
What was it. Both?
So it was both. I think early on it was high school, and then once we got it rolling, it was. I mean, back then, once you left Division I, you couldn't go Division I. So like all the guys in the Northeast, they wanted to transfer to Franklin Pierce. So like we were high school based and in foundationally based, but I think we were adding unbelievable transfers on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's right. Right, because at that time, no portal as it is now. No, you had to sit right, so they could come to you and play immediately. And I'm also guessing, and I had done this a bit in my Sacred Heart days. It was like I'd lose a kid to UConn, and when he would tell me he was going to UConn, I said, "Dude, I'm happy for you. Go get him. If it doesn't work out, I'd like to be your first phone call." Like I'm sure there were guys you lost that then came back to you after it didn't work wherever they went, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think if you do a good job, I think if you do a good job with people, it always circles back around. Whether it's that you end up getting that guy back, or there's another kid that's from the same school or whatever that comes down the road, and if a couple of years later, I think if you just focus on doing a good job and doing good by people, I think it always comes back around for you. So I certainly tried to do that.
So obviously you had this tremendous run at Franklin Pierce. I mean, my friends and I in the coaching world were like, "When's King getting out of there?" Because like people, like you could have stayed forever, but at the same time, you almost achieved everything you could possibly achieve there. You had a juggernaut going there. And, correct me if I'm wrong. The next move was to Army, but were there other opportunities that you considered and just held out, or was it you were not ready to move? Talk about that. Like eventually you made the move. So was that in something you were thinking about for a while?
Yeah, I think early on it was just singular focus. It was just like, how do we make Franklin Pierce better? And there was a lot that went into that. So like anything beyond that really didn't enter my mind. But probably 10 years in, you start thinking about, okay, what else is out there? And then, I certainly had some things that I could have done. For whatever reason, they didn't work out. And to be honest with you, like at that time, I think it's gotten a lot better now, I think you used to get stuck in buckets back then. So like if you were a D2 coach, you were a D2 coach, and if you're a D3 coach, you're a D3 coach. And I was like, so I would get some calls, and then I would get on the phone and just realize that you're not listening to a word that I'm saying. And so finally, I got into like the 18th year, and it's like, okay, like if I'm gonna do this, I probably need to do it now. And by that time, I was like, I just really felt like there was more for me to do. I didn't think Franklin Pierce was the place where I was going to end my career.
Right.
So I just felt like that move presented itself, and it was an uncomfortable move for sure in a lot of different ways. But it made me so much better, and then opened up the opportunity at Dayton as well.
You were at Army for 1 or 2 seasons?
1 year.
1 year. To me, and I'm not talking about your coaching job, but that campus, that environment is absolutely one of the best places I've ever been in this country. So was it, did that leave you when you were in that, like, did you go, I'm just going to work at the same place? Or you're like, every day you drove in going, look at this unbelievable place I'm at?
No, it was definitely the latter. I mean, it was like when I first went there, I was like, this place is something else. And then it's one of those places. The more you're there, the more incredible it gets. And my office like looks straight down the Hudson River. I mean, it was just incredibly cool, and I think like a stop in so many ways that just made me so much better because you can recruit nationally.
Right.
Obviously, it's Division I. There's a good amount of resources, so it was just a really, really, really good spot for me.
And then you were there, and then the Dayton job comes open. Was there an area you were trying to get to, or you were just basically saying, "Hey, I want to be a Division I head coach, and whatever opportunity presents itself, I'll vet it out and see if I'm a fit." Was there any meaning to Midwest, or was it more of like, "Hey, this is the right opportunity for me now"?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, the UMass job was open, and I'm like, okay, like this is like I'm a Massachusetts guy. Like I've coached in New Hampshire, but I'm in Massachusetts. I've arguably had a program that was better than a lot of the Division I schools at the time. So like when that opened, I was like, I thought that was my job. Of course, that's not the way it works. And then, didn't get that. And then shortly after that is when the Dayton job opened. And, it was it's just an unbelievable place. And it's been a blessing to, be here. Now it's going to be my 8th year with 1 year at Vanderbilt. But I think we don't know, like for me, I only knew Northeast. So like you're naive to what's in different parts of the country, but the move here, made so much sense when I got here, and it was just it really opened my eyes to what else is out there besides just in the Northeast. And I got here, and it was just unbelievable place for my family to finish out high school, unbelievable place to compete and build a program and get better. So it's been really good here, and I'm happy to be back.
As they say, everything happens for a reason, and I think you not getting UMass and getting that probably is something you're in the long run you're very happy about. Yep. I would imagine, right? Yes.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's just this place is a whole different setup than what would have been there for me as it relates to baseball. So I feel really fortunate that it shook out the way that it did.
Being the head coach there, when at least starting in that first stint, any learning curve, anything different from the days at Franklin Pierce, or is baseball the same but maybe you're learning opponents and the recruiting piece? What was the same, and I guess what was different when you took over there?
I think when I first went to Army is just the preparation on opponents was a little bit different, just because we had more access to the different things that we have access to regarding like synergy and
totally
and true media and things like that. So I think that changed a little bit. The recruiting changed quite a bit because at Franklin Pierce, most of the roster was from the Northeast. And then you get to a place like here and a place like Army, it's just like you just got to go to where you need to go to. So you started covering the map, really. And then I think at Dayton, probably the biggest thing was, at Franklin Pierce, I was doing it mostly, I had really good assistants, but the time, they weren't full-time. So I had grad assistants and part-time coaches. So a lot of the stuff in an office was just me kind of with my own thoughts for a majority of the day. And then you get to a place like this, and there's 3 other people in the office. And I think just getting accustomed to that and, really trying to do a good job with the other people that are in the office, the grown-ups in the room. And that can be complicated at times. But when you make it important, I think it can be really good. But that was an adjustment for sure because it just wasn't something that I was used to. But the baseball, it kind of remains the same. The more you think it changes, the more it comes back to what it was at the beginning. Like recruiting right now is recruiting that I was doing at Franklin Pierce, 15 years ago. It's just turned into that. But yeah, those are some of the bigger changes.
Obviously, then you take the 1 year gap and go to Vanderbilt. I probably don't have to ask you why you went to Vanderbilt because it's notoriously the best baseball program in the country, and it always wasn't. Corbin built a tremendous program there. Was that I'm sure, obviously, you're happy to be back at Dayton. Probably being a head coach suits you, and being back in a place that you're familiar. But was that was that still just baseball there, or was that a totally different experience being at that kind of program?
I think it was a different experience. I think it was still baseball, and like for me at a place like that, I was able to, like there's not a lot of administrative work. There's not a lot of stuff you're doing besides actual baseball, which is great. I think I'm good at some of that stuff. So it's like I think there was a lot of overlap there as it relates to like having two head coaches. Like side by side. So like for me, it was I think we're all built to do certain things at a high level, and like to me, for me as a head coach, even though I do think that in the right situation, like being an assistant would be really really good for me. I just think that situation in particular, it just didn't have everything that I wanted as it relates to me. Obviously, as it relates to a program, there's a lot there. I think that's kind of obvious. But as it relates to me, there's more here for me. So when that opportunity came up to come back here, it was something that I knew that I was going to be happy about.
Awesome. All right, I want to cover two, well, maybe three things. But first, let's talk a little more recruiting. Um, is there a couple of key things or any key thing you're looking in terms of recruiting? I guess most people are looking for obviously skills, and kind of we know a good baseball player when we see one. But is there anything that you value in particular? Speed, bunting, versatility, competitiveness. Is there something that Jayson King always looks for in recruits?
It used to be athleticism, and it still is to some extent. I just felt like in the Northeast there was a lot of good athletes, but not a lot of good baseball players. And then if you got them around the right coach and you had the right amount of time, you could really develop them. So that was kind of what it looked like there. Like at a place like this, now, the stuff is changing so much. You know that. So now, really, the biggest thing as it relates to high school guys is, are they ready to play right away? I think that's the first thing. And what would those guys look like matched up to some of the transfers that you have, that you can get, whether it be junior college guys or four-year guys, so that high school guys need to be really, really good. But on top of that, probably the biggest thing is trying to have some type of connection or more information about a guy, whether it be through guys that played for me, or guys that coach with me, or whatever. But just having a little more connection with a player, than just seeing a guy and then trying to bring him in. Because now, on the backside of getting good high school players is, if they're really, really good, can you keep them there, and will they stay there, and will they be loyal? So like, it's really like two things. It's one, are they good enough, and then two, how if they are. If a guy can transfer to an SEC school and make six figures, like I don't think any of us are gonna feel we're not gonna feel great about it.
No,
but
you understand it.
I think that's reality. So we have
Right.
to understand reality. But if they're gonna leave to go to a smaller program, that's kind of similar to yours, but might have a little something more. Like if they're gonna leave for something like that, I really don't have any interest in a high school guy that would do that. So it can be a little tricky because there is another layer to it. Is like, can you get them? Yeah, and then can you keep them? So I never really used to worry about that, but now it's definitely something that comes into consideration every time we talk about a high school player.
And it's interesting. I get this all the time in my world of working with high school kids and camps and stuff, and it's like your average parent thinks like a camp is a money grab. It drives me insane. Yes, there is money to, you might have money to buy balls or machine, but you're running camps, first of all, because you can't do a tryout. You can't have a kid come in and throw a bullpen, so you have to run a camp. And secondly, you're running camps to see if the kid's good enough, right? Number one, to recruit them, but also, just like you said, you get a little bit of a chance to get to know them, talk to them, put them through your drills, run them through. So, like, for you, are camps still a big piece to maybe get that final bit of information to make a decision on someone?
Yeah, for sure. One is they're on your campus, so they made you important.
Yes, I like that.
That's a big deal. Two is you can't see everybody. So, I mean, we have four coaches, but we also have a team on campus. Um, it's just hard to see everybody. So, here, like having someone come to the camp, they're right there in front of you, and like, I don't know about you and like other, how other coaches handle their business, but if I see a good player right in front of me, like I'm gonna want that guy. And sometimes you just don't see certain guys, so the opportunity for them to come to your school is not there. But you go to a camp and you're good enough, and there's coaches there that are looking for players constantly. I think it puts yourself in a good spot. I think for the ones that I always look at it, if the camp's done right, um, regardless of if someone gets recruited or not by that school. One is you should be able to get some sort of evaluation, which we do for all the kids that come to our
Yeah,
camp. So I think that can
huge,
be very helpful.
very.
And then the other thing is, can they take some stuff as it relates to the baseball training into their remaining high school years, to help them get better, to maybe end up at a school maybe not quite your level, but maybe better than your level, or maybe slightly below, whatever. But like, to me, if you do it right, like, yes, you have an opportunity to be recruited because the coaches are usually always there. But you should be able to take something from that camp, skill wise, and you should be able to get an evaluation to let you know where you're at on that given day. And I think those things are helpful.
Yeah.
Um, so I think and do we make money? Absolutely, we do. And I think it helps in a lot of different ways, but we don't do it just for the money. I mean, the money's part of it, but we make sure that, um, people, when people leave the camp, they're like, yeah, and they would, if they wear the T-shirt that we give them and they say, where'd you get that? They say, I went to this camp and it was good. Then more people are going to come down the road.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, two things you said. Number one, many people don't understand how overwhelming recruiting can be for coaches. Yeah, you got four coaches, but this is a big country with a lot of kids, a lot of teams, a lot of tournaments. It's impossible. If you boil it down to, there's no way to see more than 10% of the kids, probably, just based on numbers. So you're right. So a kid comes to Dayton camp, he's saying, I'm interested in Dayton, and it's a place to connect. That's number one. Number two, when I was running camps at Sacred Heart and Coach Giaquinto was my boss, he would basically say, I want to design this camp so that the worst kid gets something out of it. That's what he would
Sure.
say. Like, of course we want to find recruits, but like, I want the worst kid to be able to leave with drills and instruct and evaluation and like, no, get better from the camp. And it sounds like
No
you
doubt.
run it the same way.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. Second thing I want to ask you is, this is, you have thought about this or maybe not. Like, do you have a coaching philosophy or a style? Like, is there something you're trying to do within practice or designing of the team that is unique to you? Like, whether it's you want to make drills competitive or you want to, is there something culture wise that you try to instill in the teams that might be different from a program down the road? Or do you think you run, kind of a standard program and just try to be as good as you can doing it?
I think I think that a couple things. One is like the toughness and the competitiveness is like a huge priority. And like how you get there is, um, it's a process. And the consistency of the work and excellence in everything you do is probably the other thing that comes to mind at the highest level. But like everybody, to me, everyone has slogans or things that they want their program to be known for. I think that that like just like having things that you want to have your program known to be. I think there's so much that goes into that, and there's so much time, and there's so much effort, and there's so much focus. I think a lot of people just aren't willing to do that, to be completely honest with you. and I'm definitely willing to do that. So like I'll wake up most days, and that stuff will be on my mind, and then it's just not something that's going to leave my mind until the season ends, and then it's going to start right when the next season begins. So I think that's probably where I think the difference is like to what level are you willing to commit to what
Right.
you think is important. And I can tell you that for me, I'm willing to commit at a high level. So I think that's probably the biggest difference.
Yeah, and it's funny. It makes me think of I got sidetracked over the break here, the little holiday, watching the Dallas Cowboys Netflix documentary. Which I'm a Jets fan, so I guess we need to. I got to watch someone else's teams because I don't have anything to watch on my own. But and it's funny to see how the players reacted under Jimmy Johnson and then Barry Switzer. Like Jimmy
Sure.
Johnson was all over them for everything and never let anything drop and held them to these high standards. And like years later, that's why they love him. You know what I mean? Because
Sure.
he was maybe they didn't love it at the time, but it's just what you said. Like yeah, to hold standards is not easy. It's an everyday thing. So I like that. All right, final thing then. Somewhat putting you on the spot, but not really. Mohegan Sun Baseball Coaches Convention has sponsored this podcast. And so I kind of always ask this at the end of my podcast, but I'll now answer it under the Mohegan Sun guys. And you've been to that convention. You know how good
Oh
it
yeah.
is and how awesome. Is there anything you would tell a high school age Jayson King, or if you were speaking in front of 15 and 16-year-old sophomores and juniors in high schools, that like something you wish you would have done, or a couple of key things to develop at that age? Is there anything that would be important for a kid who's really into baseball, who wants to play college baseball, ideally Division I? Is there one or two things you wish you knew back then, or you would like a young kid to know to develop?
As a player.
Yeah, as a player, yes.
Okay. I think to have a passion for if you're going to do it, have a passion for it, and find a way to have fun when you play. I think we grew up playing this game because it was fun, and like I feel like over the years it's turned into like something that it wasn't made to be. I think just being able to just really love the game and want to get better and have a passion. I think those things are always great. And then probably the biggest thing though is just the work ethic. Is just can you show up every day, and like when you get knocked down, can you get up? And I think that's the coolest thing about baseball is like the lessons that you learn along the way. It's like good or bad, it's still good. So I think just enjoying the game, just loving the game. Not you can only play it for so long, and then just working as hard as you can to try to reach any goals that you have, but really keeping the fun portion of it the biggest thing. I think that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, what I just thought of is when you said that is it's almost like the fun of it, the passion makes the work not as much work. Like
No doubt.
if you're going, oh, I got to lift today. Oh, I got to go practice today. Like that's not for you, man. It should be like, oh, cool, you get to practice. Yeah, of course, sometimes you'll be tired and you didn't sleep great and you had a test or something's going on. But like if on an everyday basis you're not excited to do those things, life's too short, man. So
No doubt.
yeah,
No
exactly,
doubt.
exactly. All right, Jayson, you're the man. I so appreciate you taking the
Yeah,
time
man, of
and,
course.
yeah, and a busy fall, and it's great to catch up. And hopefully, I'll connect you at some point with a player and
Sweet.
get one of my guys out there. But of course, I always try. Listen, I try not. What's important to me is our relationship, and I'm only going to send you a guy that's close to your level. You may like him, you may not, but I'm not going to tell you about somebody that's not anywhere near Dayton baseball.
No doubt. I appreciate it, man. It's good to see your face. It's good to talk to you.
You too, buddy. All right, it's great.
All right, my man.
All right, take care, man.
Yep. See ya.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to the Game Plan podcast, sponsored by College Baseball Advisors. I hope you enjoyed today's episode with Jayson King, head baseball coach at the University of Dayton. Again, I'm Wayne Mazzoni, the host of the podcast, 30-year college coach that now runs collegebaseballadvisor.com. For more information, just visit the website. There's some information you could fill out if you'd like to do a free Zoom with you and your family talking about your recruiting process. I also like to mention that our sponsor is the Mohegan Sun World Baseball Coaches Convention, which takes place every year in January. This year is January 15th to 17th at the Mohegan Sun Casino. If you've been to that casino, you know what an awesome venue it is. If you have not, you really should go there for this convention. It's in its 23rd year. I've been to at least 20 of those, spoken many times about pitching and recruiting, but there's fantastic speakers from Butch Thompson, there's Todd Interdonato, there's minor league coaches, major league coaches, Pete Walker, Butch Thompson. The list goes on and on. If you go to their website, baseballcoachesclinic.com, you could see past speakers, this year's speakers, the actual schedule of the event, the vendors that are there, and you can, of course, register for the event as well. So thank you again for listening to today's episode, and we'll see you on our next episode of The Game Plan. Thank you.